Welcome to the Successful Nonprofits Podcast. I'm your host, Dolph Goldenberg, and friend. Today's episode is a nugget of nonprofit startup inspiration. I spoke with Jake Krotonsky and Alec Bansal about their starting up a nonprofit. These are two high school seniors that started a nonprofit when they were sophomores. So literally, we're talking like 15, 16 years old, started a nonprofit that has gotten institutional funding, has done some incredible things. Now, we've all had a good idea for a potential new nonprofit, but that idea sometimes just never reaches the implementation stage. Or if we do start to implement, if we recruit some board members and we incorporate it, we get 501c3 status, we still have to overcome a myriad of hurdles to actually develop and provide programs and, of course, deal with the minutiae of running a nonprofit. We're talking accounting, we're talking fundraising, marketing. It's all the things that most of us don't think about when we decide to launch a nonprofit. And today's guests, Jake and Alec, have done some incredible work. As I mentioned, they founded a nonprofit 2 years ago while sophomores in high school, and that nonprofit is Souls to Souls. Today, their organization is thriving, having given away over 1,700 pairs of shoes. And while we're going to talk with them some today about the nonprofit itself and its mission, we're primarily going to be focusing on how they built the organization, as well as what it takes to sustain an organization as it grows. Hey, Jake, Alec, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
So I thought a good place to get started is you all telling me what was the inspiration for Souls to Souls?
Yeah, totally. So, really to go back to our sophomore year of high school, Alec and I growing up, we've been best friends since first grade. And growing up, we always loved buying, selling, collecting pairs of shoes. And that was kind of our big thing, getting the new Jordans, the stuff like that. And so when we came to our high school, we realized the importance of service and the importance of serving others. And we realized that we had this privilege going to a private high school and seeing all of the service that we had been able to do. We realized that maybe our passion for shoes could be used for something greater. And so one day, Alec and I were driving down a popular road, and we saw a homeless man named Sean, and we saw that his shoes were, completely worn out. And we said, this is not all right. We can't go on with our day and just give him $5. So we approached him and we asked what his shoe size was. He told us he was a size 11. And we went to a nearby shoe store and we bought him a pair of size 11 Nike shoes. And that's pretty much, how we started and where the inspiration came from and where the passion came from is us wanting to take something we enjoy and be able to spread it with people who maybe don't have the opportunity to have something like that.
First of all, I'm so struck by that story. I had a similar and completely dissimilar experience when I was in like 9th or 10th grade. I got off the subway. My mom and dad would finally let me ride the subway by myself, which felt like a huge step for me. And I got off the subway and I come up the escalator and I come on the sidewalk and I see this person digging in a trash can for food. And I remember being really struck by it. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, what can I do? And I didn't start a nonprofit organization. So I'm super impressed because like you all asked yourself, what can I do? And then you actually built something that potentially makes a real change in the world. So kudos and way to go.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So now that we know the inspiration for Souls to Souls, I want us to talk about the journey from this idea. Hey, we just bought one person a pair of shoes. How did it go from that to, okay, we're going to start a nonprofit?
Yeah, so initially we didn't even think about starting the nonprofit. It was just helping that one gentleman, Sean, in need. And then after that encounter, we were so moved as well as to see the impact that we had on him that we knew that we needed to create an organization or some type of project that would continue to have this impact. So initially, we only started doing a couple pairs of shoes. First, we did a drive at a local high school for refugee students from Afghanistan. We noticed, or my sister went to that high school, and we noticed that they didn't have all their clothes with them. They weren't able to bring a lot of their belongings with them. So we wanted to make them feel welcome and give them a decent pair of shoes that they were comfortable and confident in. And from there, we kind of fundraising a little bit more so that we could afford more shoes. And then it just grew from there.
Okay. And help me understand, most people, would just start a club at their school and say, okay, we're going to start a club. You all didn't do that. You said, no, let's incorporate. What was the catalyst that made you all realize that just a club at your school was not going to be enough?
Yeah, I think, both Alec and I think we both really see ourselves as entrepreneurs, and throughout middle school and high school, we've always been trying to figure out ways that we can maybe start businesses and different things. And a club at our high school, once we kind of got to a point where, we were giving out pretty large amounts of shoes, and we were, really expanding, and we needed a board. We felt like, a club at our high school was just going to make this a project, but we wanted to turn this into a business, and that made the most sense, I think, for both of our kind of business brains. And we weren't really surrounded by tons of nonprofits. Like, we had worked and helped volunteering at some, but when we kind of made the decision to really go into it and to start the nonprofit and go through the whole process, we were just like, this is what we feel like we need to do. This is how we'll be able to get money for and make us more reputable and be able to just uplift our impact and expand it to so many different communities.
And did you know from prior entrepreneurial efforts that, okay, we need to incorporate, or what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the small businesses that we had kind of tried working on, just for-profit businesses, it was mainly just driven by trying to make some money. But when we had this experience and this encounter, we realized that, this is something that's greater than just making money and just trying to manage a board. This is, we're now helping people, and I believe we're almost around the 1,700 pairs donated. And so the more that we were able to do, we just kept realizing that our impact is just growing and growing and growing. And we just kept bringing people in, and one thing leads to another, and you meet one person, and then you meet another person, and it leads to another thing. And it's just been, insane to see how it's grown.
That's awesome. I'm going to do some quick math here. So I buy Brooks running shoes. By the way, I'm cheap. So I buy like $100 Brooks running shoes. So 1,700 times $100, that's like, let's do some quick math here. 170,000, I think.
Yeah, so somewhere around there. Yeah.
Is that right? Did I just do that math correctly? Wow. Okay. So you all have raised like 170 grand or so in 2 years.
Yeah, a little bit less than that because we're able to leverage some discounts. We do shop at the local Nike store, the Nike Unite store, they call it, at Desert Ridge here in Scottsdale. And they have a wall where they have all 40% off shoes, and they're all brand new shoes, and they're all super cool. It's just either people returned them or tried them on, so they can't sell them as new. So we're able to get most shoes for 40 to 50 bucks when they really retail for 100, 120, 150 sometimes.
I have to say, like, that's the way you all are really being amazing entrepreneurs. How did you set that up with the store?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of mainly, like, for us at least, just finding like where the deals are at. And that's kind of, was one of the things that we got good at from being sneakerheads and interested in that kind of field is, trying to see where you can get the best deal, and different things like that. We actually have an event coming up in 2 weeks, where we're doing a private shopping experience for 100 foster kids, and we made a really cool connection with one of the outlet stores, Famous Footwear, and we're basically going in before they open, and we're gonna bring in all the foster kids, and they'll all get to go and pick out pairs of shoes. The outlet store, they told us that they were going to be able to give us a additional 20% off discount. So it's mainly just, for us at least, just making those connections and telling our story to people. And for the most part, people are pretty empathetic and, really want to help out and they want to make a difference. You just kind of have to show them how.
And I'll say, I think you've also really established your credibility. Like, you've got a good website. On the website, you actually see you all like giving shoes to people. You've been on the local news and in the Phoenix area. Like, I think you've also done a really good job of establishing that credibility. So if the manager of that outlet store goes and Googles Souls to Souls, they're going to actually see something substantial.
Exactly. Yep.
So let's dig into the nonprofit side. So you realized that you need to have a board. How did you recruit board members who are actually going to do work and not just board members who were like, oh yeah, this will look really good on my Princeton application?
Exactly. So that definitely is a consideration for us, but I think we were able to do it very organically, which I know Jake and I are super grateful for. At Brophy, they really foster a community that does service, what they call a faith that does justice. So there's a lot of like-minded individuals at Brophy, and we found ourselves in a friend group with a lot of kids who love sneakers and also love to help other people out. And it just so happened that we all have different skill sets that really complement one another. So we were able to actually form our board out of a lot of our friends that we already had, and then we also were able to put out like a little bit of a recruitment to bring in other people that wanted to help.
And as you started to approach your friends to be board members, what did you tell them you were expecting of them?
Mhm. Yeah, I think we really when we first started, I mean, we were 16, 17 at the time when we were kind of putting together a board. We really didn't know a lot about what the reason why we were even having a board. We were just kind of told, "Oh, you guys need to have a board." And at that super early stage, we both were super new to this, and it was even weird telling our friends what to do because we were trying to run it like a business, but also our meetings are in the lunch cafeteria. So it was a weird balance at first, but we kind of got to a point where we said, okay, we're going to take this like a real business. I mean, we're taking in donations and we're giving lots of shoes away. We need to get serious about this. And we started meeting around at my house around our table and really setting in quarterly goals and making sure, okay, we need these 10 things done. Who's going to get this done? Who's going to get this done? And really just assigning things and working on, and accountability was our biggest thing of, saying, all right, this needs to get done. And if it doesn't, how can we help you to get it done? And just kind of working around those obstacles and that barrier of also us being friends with them and all seeing each other around class was just a really interesting dynamic to maneuver. But I think it made both of us came out with much stronger leaders.
So let's talk about some of those things that had to get done. And again, I'm going to kind of dive into the admin side of it a little bit. Talk to me about the accounting side. So obviously you've got money coming in, people are giving you donations, you've got special events, and then you've also got money going out. You're buying shoes, that kind of thing. So how are you managing your books?
Yeah, so at first we were fortunate enough that my grandpa is a CPA and was able to help us with our whole kind of process of for starting and kind of with all our books and stuff. But I mean, our operations are relatively simple with money coming in and money going out because the only thing that we're pretty much purchasing, because none of us take salaries and our overhead's very low, is the only thing we're pretty much purchasing are shoes, and then sometimes there's some marketing stuff
The
in
website.
there and website upkeep, that sort of thing. So it was never really like a struggle with the books and managing all of that stuff. And we're fortunate enough to have a lot of really great adult mentors and resources around us to help us with those sorts of thing. But yeah, if that answers.
Very cool. So that absolutely answers. So in board meetings, do you all look at financials?
Yeah, of course. We look at, we'll see how much we're spending, how much we can allocate to each event that we're going to have going on. We'll say, okay, we need to have one event this month, one distribution event. Maybe we'll have one next month that we need to see, there's going to be 50 kids for this one. So we're going to allocate this much money to that. And then, if we have to go a little bit over, then we do. But we make sure that we kind of stay in those confines of what we've been allocated. But then after going on the news, we were reached out to by the Arizona Lottery, which really sparked a crazy journey for this past year, where they do a gives back sponsorship and they sponsored us with 25 grand. And that really just took us to the absolute next level. They've been amazing to work with. We really have been able to take a lot of that and do what we want with the organizations that we're working with, just maximize our impact, because that's just been our absolute goal.
That's a great place for us to pivot. So let's talk about the fundraising. So obviously you were on Family to Family, I think, and that resulted in the Arizona Lottery finding you, which, by the way, just quick aside, I chuckled a little bit in my head because I'm like, I'd be willing to bet there's probably some 10th and 11th graders involved in your organization who are not old enough to play the lottery yet, but yet the lottery the lottery gave your organization $25,000. That's awesome. That's truly awesome. But what else are you all doing to fundraise?
Yeah, so this past year, we've actually the 25 grand has been plenty of to hold these distribution events. But when we first started, we were really doing a lot of just like hands-on fundraising. We started with garage sales we collected stuff from our community, donations, our own houses, just to get a few $100 so that we can have purchase these shoes. And then we also did some fundraisers at restaurants, local stores. I remember our first one was a local store at Scottsdale Quarter that Jake's mom actually helped us organize. And it's just a lot of those small things, and it all really added up. And as people see that we're really trying to make an effort to fundraise and to get these shoes out, we also started to receive a lot more donations on our website, which really proved to be a catalyst to our impact.
That's awesome. Now, I know some boards have an expectation that every board member is engaged in fundraising. Is that an expectation you all have?
Yeah, we're always, I mean, we're always selling. That's kind of our big thing is that, we have our shirts and we have our merch that we're always constantly wearing around campus, and people are asking us, what's that? Or, we put like intentionally put prints on like the backs of the shirts. And people will stand behind us in line and say, "Oh, what company is that?" Or "That's pretty interesting." And so that's kind of our big thing is, we're always selling. We always have our cards with us and ready to talk about it whenever we want. And also the merch has been, a pretty big selling point as well. That was something that we've both been pretty interested in is clothes, and we were able to kind of to use a lot of those kind of skills into designing some merch as well.
Nice, nice. Now, do individual board members have individual fundraising goals? Like, are you all hoping every board member raises at least a certain amount every year, or how are you structuring that?
Not so much as much that we're really right now we're at a stage where we're trying to get more so recruitment than necessarily fundraising, because we're at a decent spot in terms of fundraising. But we also have just the expectation that everyone's on board and that everyone's just like actively participating more. So I think sometimes it's harder for us to receive specific fundraising from certain people. So I think it's just that the collective effort, to be honest.
Okay. So in terms of that expectation that every board member is active and engaged, have you had any board members who you're like, they're not really pulling their weight?
Yeah, there's definitely been, there's definitely been like a few guys who we've almost kind of seen that, oh, maybe they're just kind of doing this for their resume, and they're not really super into it. And, we kind of approach them with like, we kind of almost try to get them back into the service, and we try to get them back into those events, because for us, I mean, that first moment of giving Sean that pair of shoes, that was the moment where everything clicked for us. And lucky, for us, we were able to have that moment very on, and it really just kind of gave us the motivation to keep going. But, for some of these guys who maybe don't necessarily see that, we just bring them back to the service and show how important, like, making the difference in these people's lives are by something simple as just one pair of shoes. It just brightens, some of these people's day. And I think that really just draws them back to, okay, maybe I do need to do a little bit more work with our Instagram, or maybe I do need to look for some more donations and things like that.
Yeah, also in those sort of situations, we kind of look inward and see maybe they aren't in the right position, and maybe they would be better suited to do something else, and they would want to be more engaged if they're doing something that they're better at or more interested in. So we try to like see if there's like a community that they want to help, or maybe do a different task on the inside job. You know what I mean?
Alec, I'm really impressed at the insight on that, because so many boards will go, oh, this person's underperforming, and assume it's about the person, and not assume we've not asked this person to be engaged in ways that are meaningful for them. So super, super impressed at that insight. And by the way, it's also a good reminder for me, because sometimes I'm like, oh, we need to make this person do more. And I need to think, no, we need to help this person find something that makes them want to do more. So I really appreciate that. Have you had to have any difficult conversations with any board members?
Oh, definitely a ton of difficult conversations. I feel like whether it's like underperformance or maybe like just not meeting the expectation, but I think it always leads to us growing as leaders and them being able to also grow as a leader, because they're also leaders of this organization. Just because they don't have the co-founder or executive director title, they're also leading this organization and our community. So I think those help us have better communication, and ultimately that type of like friction helps us grow into something greater and stronger.
And can we, without naming names, can we talk about at least one of those hard conversations you had to have with a board member?
Yeah, we went on an immersion trip to El Salvador last year, and we were really fortunate to see a lot of the kids that were down there. But we did unfortunately see a lot of the difficulties that they faced. And we had a friend who went with us, and kind of it was a little bit of a struggle because he wanted to get cleats for the kids that were there, which was an amazing idea, and we were super happy to take it on. It fell within our confines of shoes, and we were like, of course, yeah. And all the three of us, we all and a few other guys went, and that idea wasn't really like manifesting itself as like the way we wanted to, and it wasn't really growing, and it was kind of difficult saying like we really need to get this going if we want to keep it going because as we're kind of nearing towards the end of high school, and this is something that it was a trip that our high school does, and we really wanted to try to make this work. And so it kind of takes like sitting down and just being realistic about it of, is this really something that we want to do? Because we want to make an impact, we want to trying to make a difference. But if we don't have that push to do it, it makes more sense maybe to focus our efforts elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's definitely a hard conversation. And I know a lot of board leaders have had to have that with board members because board members want to do something that maybe is just a little bit outside of the mission.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, we were told at a very early stage by one of our mentors that you have to stick what you're good at and stick to your mission and always go back to that initial encounter that we had with Sean of why did we start in that mission. He told us things are going to try to go different places, and you might get said, oh, have you guys thought about socks, or have you guys thought about doing this? And for us it's really just all about sticking to that mission of that we're going to provide shoes, we're going to provide high quality shoes to kids and adults who really need it. And that was kind of, we stuck to that, and we haven't really deviated.
Yeah. I also have to share with you, first of all, I'm really glad that you've set some boundaries and like, no, this is our mission. We're not going to do X, Y, or Z. But I also understand where your board member was coming from. 5 or 6 years ago, I was volunteering at a school in Haiti. And at recess, they're like, oh, go out and play soccer with the kids. And by the way, my sport, I do jujitsu. I don't play soccer, so I'm not very good at soccer. I'm like in my Brooks shoes, ready out there on the field, and these kids are like coming out barefoot on a field that's just strewn with rocks, like literally, and they're like running circles around me, honestly. But I was just like, wow, I cannot believe like these kids don't even have appropriate shoes to play soccer in. So I understand that pull, and I also understand the need for you all to set boundaries and say, no, this is who we are as an organization.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit, 2 more items I want us to talk about. Media. You all have done really well with media. Talk to me about how you've engaged media and how you've gotten the media attention you have.
Yeah, the biggest kind of driver that started our expansive media outreach was really just trying to be organic with social media. I mean, we really just our main bread and butter was with Instagram. We started with trying to just post as consistently as we can, posting on our stories, having all of our friends reposting, and just really trying to just grow that base, and trying to make interesting videos or take interesting pictures, and really just kind of using that to grow. And then from there, we realized, it's a little bit bigger than just social media. We have to go out and engage in other ways. And so we kind of, from our network that we had with our small network within our school and from family, friends, and things like that, just trying to reach out to different people, and maybe this person knows a news anchor. And for like the Arizona family, we happen to know the person who was running that segment that day, and they just happened to have an opening. I think I had to like miss like first period for it, and it just kind of was like, this makes more sense than going and studying for math. It was just like, all right, I'll have to go to the news station, and because this is probably going to be something that will lead to something bigger, and it ended up leading to the Arizona lottery. So it's a really a lot about just kind of seeing who you know, taking like the connections that you have and trying to expand them and go one further and just meet the next person in line to try to get to, the news or to whatever outlet you need to get that word out.
Yeah, yeah. So the last thing I want us to talk about, and this is something a lot of founders struggle with, is letting go. It's actually called founder syndrome. But I know you all, I think you all graduate from high school in a couple months.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
my assumption is you're moving on to other things.
Of course, yeah.
So what's your succession plan? How does this organization continue after you all step away?
Yeah, so that's something we really started to think about, not this January, but last January. One of our mentors that Jake was saying earlier, Mr. Paul Mulligan with Catholic Charities, had us kind of look through our next 18 months and see what that looks like because, like you said, it moves so quickly and we're already over 12 months through that 18-month period. And part of that was kind of seeing what do we do with this organization when we graduate high school, when both Jake and I are leaving the greater Phoenix area, Arizona, to go to college. So what does that look like for our organization? Do we bring it with us? Do we keep it here or do we dissolve it? Obviously, we don't want to dissolve it. We're doing great things and we love the impact that we're having. So we figured that we made a club at Brophy this year to have some succession at the school itself. So we'll have a president of the Brophy chapter of Souls to Souls, and then we also hope to continue it outside of the school as just a greater organization. Two of our board members are going to ASU next year, so they'll be here to handle any distribution events that happen while Jake and I are away. And then also, most of our distribution events are in August before school, and then the holiday times, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then some sporadic things throughout the spring. And during those breaks, Jake and I will most likely be home to help conduct those events. And then we can also continue to do the communications with these organizations that we work with online, obviously, through email.
Okay. And are you all going to be staying on as leaders on the board? Or are you bringing new people to come into the board? How are you handling that?
Yeah, we'll be staying on as the board, and kind of our plan now is just to keep meeting because set like meeting dates of we'll meet every Saturday. I mean, we haven't figured exactly out, but every Saturday of the or second Saturday of the month or whatever it is, to just keep a consistent schedule and make sure everyone's kind of on pace to be getting done what needs to get done. But we've kind of gotten to a point where I mean, it's almost just like we kind of can just sit back and watch a little bit. And a lot of our board members and some other volunteers have gotten so engaged that things can kind of start really working by themselves now, and we can kind of take a step back and do a little bit more of just administrative work.
That's awesome. Now, we've only got a few minutes left, and I want to make sure that we play one of the games that I always try to play with the guests at the very end of each episode, and that's Two Truths and a Lie. And by the way, I'm horrible at this game. I'm really, really terrible at this game. And it started to become a point of pride how bad I am at it. But all right, so if each of you wants to share 3 things about yourself, 2 of them are true, 1 of them is a lie, I will do my best to discern which one is the lie.
All right. One of them is that I did gymnastics for 10 years. Another one is that I have never been to Europe. And the last one is that I have about 50 pairs of shoes.
Okay. I know you're a sneakerhead, so I believe you probably do have 50 pair of shoes. I'll also share with you, I have a nephew who's about 23 or 24 now, and when he was 15, he showed me his shoe closet, and I asked him the value of that closet. And he said, I don't know, maybe $6,000 or $7,000. And I was like, oh my gosh, my first car cost $1,000. I cannot believe 6 of my cars are in there. But I do believe you have 50 pairs of shoes. So now I have to decide, did you do gymnastics or did you go to Europe? I'm going to guess did not do gymnastics, but have gone to Europe. So I think the lie is you did not do gymnastics for 10 years.
No, I did gymnastics. I think I have actually only 20 pairs of shoes.
No
Not 50.
way. Really? You only have 20? Okay. All right. Okay. So I was picturing a closet full of shoes and I'm like, I bet 50 could fit in there. Okay. All right. See, I told you I'm not great at this game. So you've been to Europe and you've done gymnastics, just only
No,
20.
I've not been to Europe was my
Oh, I apologize. So you've not been to Europe and you've done
Yeah.
gymnastics, just
Yeah.
only 20 pair of shoes. Okay. By the way, I think I have like 5 or 6 pair of shoes. So even 20 is a lot for me. All right, Alec, you ready to go?
Yeah, two truths and a lie, right?
Yep.
So, my favorite sneaker is the Air Jordan 11. My my favorite baseball player is Ken Griffey Jr. And I have traveled to Europe.
Okay. I'm in over my head because I'm like, okay, is this a trick? Is there no Air Jordan 11? Is there only Air Jordan 10? I don't know who that baseball player is. So I'm in far, far over my head now.
Sure, I'll redo it for you.
No. That's all right.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say I think you've been to Europe, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna go out on a limb and say your favorite sneaker is not the Air Jordan 11.
I said the lie is that my favorite baseball player is Ken Griffey Jr. It's not.
Okay, is that really a baseball player?
Yeah, he is. He was a great. He's a Hall of Famer.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know. All right. There you go. I run and I do jujitsu. That's what I do. Everything else, I'm like, it doesn't matter. All right. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for playing Two Truths and a Lie. But more importantly, thank you for sharing really inspiration for our listeners. I know I have a lot of friends who are listening who think, maybe one day I'm going to start something, knowing that you two, really like having had some entrepreneurial experience, but really saying, hey, we've never done a nonprofit before, but we can figure it out. It's truly inspirational. And what you've built is really incredible. Friends, I would encourage you to go to their website. That is soulstosouls.org. While you're at that website, you can check out, obviously, a lot of things. You can check out their blog posts. In one of those blog posts is actually their interview with Arizona Family News. So you can get that there as well. Obviously, you can give there. You can find out more about the organization. Hey, Alec, Jake, thank you so much for coming on. I'm grateful you did.
Yeah, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
having us on the pod.
Thank you.
All right, friends. Thank you for joining us for this episode. If you found this really useful, if it was inspirational for you, if you're maybe thinking, maybe I could start that nonprofit, there's 2 other episodes I want you to consider. One is episode 306, Youth and Intergenerational Collaboration with Iona Doherty and Lila Williamson. And the second is episode 319, Start a Nonprofit from Scratch with Genevieve Pitoro. That, my friends, is our show for the week. I hope that you have gained some insight to help you and your nonprofit thrive. And the lawyers make me say it. Otherwise, there's no world in which I'd say this every single week. I am not an accountant. I am also not an attorney. And neither I nor the consulting practice provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. And you know what this means. This means that this podcast is for informational purposes. And it means kind of like any podcast, you should not rely on this for tax, legal, or accounting advice. Please, if that is what you need, do the right thing. Do what Jake and Alec did. Go and find a professional, a CPA, a member of the bar who can help you.